Giffin? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
It's easy feeling as long as you came. Baby, get by a minute into force. Oh, I didn't notice it's getting full. But only when got been by chance, darling, got me.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Cannabis and Coffee with me, Tamarijuana. I'm out in the Red Room this morning, and it's a gorgeous day, sun shining, and I'd like to send a shout-out, though, to our first responders and firefighters that are out fighting the over 200 forest fires that are burning in British Columbia right now. Please, everybody, put your campfires out, and if you do see a fire, please report it to star 5555 in British Columbia. There's Kamloops and all that Ashcroft area that there's over, I think they said 14,000 people right now in the province that have been displaced. And that's kind of, replay of what goes on in this province every year. But it's pretty bad this year. It's pretty dry. I'd like to welcome Debbie Stultz-Giffin back to the show this morning. They're been busy.
Morning.
Good morning. Busy working on Harvest Fest for, well, quite frankly, since the last Harvest Fest, which was a year ago. And it's your 10th annual. How are things going?
Things are going awesome. We're just about ready to rock and roll, as they say. The gates will be open on Friday, and we're expecting a good turnout. We've got an awesome lineup of bands and demonstrations and all kinds of neat stuff going on.
Right. So you've got a dab bar.
Yes, actually, we've got a dab bar that's expanded in size this year. It's instead of a 10 by 10 tent, it's going to be a 10 by 20, and we're going to have one side just like your local garage that's full serve, and the other side that's self serve, so that folks who have e-nails and no way to plug them in because it's rough camping can bring their e-nails to the dab bar and their own dabs on the self-serve side, and on the full-serve side, the dab bar is being run by April Wells and her crew of dab tenders, and there's some awesome prizes to be won as well, and dab cards to be purchased for $25 for 10 dabs, unless you're a MUM member or a Glob Mob member, and then there's a slight discount. So, yeah, it's super exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like a super... Because a dab bar is something kind of new that's just kind of transpired over the last couple of years with the events. Before that, nobody was really into this new extraction because of the Owen Smith ruling. We've been allowed to, consume in any form, cannabis in any form. So that kind of has opened the industry up for these dabs and the glass blowers and the e-nail makers and all the shatter producers. And that's fabulous. I bet you have some great sponsors.
Oh, we do. I couldn't begin to tell you. It would take a while to list off all of the sponsors for the dab bar and the main event. I'll put it to you that way. But there we have... This year we've been working, or April's been working, quite religiously at getting donations so that we can have permanent e-nails that belong to the dab bar station. And we had donations from B-Nails, from a smoke shop here in Nova Scotia called the High Road, and another donation from the Higher Living Wellness Center, one of the dispensary/clinics here in Nova Scotia.
I guess we should probably let the listeners know exactly where, the location, because we're not in... Debbie's in Nova Scotia. So I guess we should have maybe mentioned that before we started talking about it. This event is in Nova Scotia. But whereabouts are you holding it? because I know that Chris Backer and a few volunteers have been out there clearing that area and really getting it ready for weeks. Like, it's been a really ongoing process.
Well, actually, yes. Last year we held the festival for the first time at its current location, which is actually, for anyone on the East Coast listening, it's in Riversdale, which is about 10 minutes outside of Truro. And Truro is considered basically to be the hub of the Maritimes, so it makes it accessible for New Brunswick, PEI, Newfoundland, other parts of Nova Scotia. It's a fairly large field on private property, and we rent porta potties, including a couple of wheelchair units to make it easier for folks who get around in wheelchairs. Last year we found the space filling up quite nicely, so we, in consultation with the landowner, we hired a backhoe, and the backhoe went in and cleared a larger chunk of land again, and a lot of the clearing efforts this year were dealing with all of the alders that had been removed, burning them and that sort of thing, and there's been a rake-in pulled by a tractor to get all of the odds and ends of roots stirred up out of that ground, and it's looking quite good. We're not going to be fully able to use that chunk of land this year because the grass hasn't started growing there, but next year we'll certainly be able to use it to its fullest capacity.
That's awesome. And just to have that ability.
Yeah, the work has actually been, like you say, going on for months and months, because just as the snow was starting to clear, the bush removal and burning was beginning.
Wow. Yeah, like I've been noticing Chris's posts about, needing volunteers to go out. They've been out there diligently working at that. This is a huge undertaking. Like, I've been kind of looking forward to planning, an event out here for August of 2018. I'm thinking, I better get started. Because I've been listening to go on, and planning and how much, time it's taken. You've also got, like you said, entertainment and what you have bands. What's going on with the entertainment?
Excuse me. We have a DJ who will be playing all weekend, and he also looks after our sound requirements. But as well, we have 3 acts Friday night, and several on Sunday, including a magician. We have a fire spinner who's going to be entertaining both evenings. The bands are really an assortment of, there's a little bit of country, there's a fair bit of rock, a fair bit of blues, there's a little bit of hip-hop as well, so it's a bit of a mixture, and there should be something that pretty much appeals to anybody as far as music goes.
Now, is this a family-friendly event? Or children welcome?
Absolutely. It's children-friendly, and in fact, we have our magician performing Saturday afternoon, who will guarantee to keep the kids amused for a bit. Last year, we had Hippie Lloyd, he's fondly known as here in Nova Scotia, who's a comedian, did an internet show with the kids that was aired the following week. So there are, a few things like that will be going on to make the kids feel not only welcome but included in the event.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. That's awesome. That's one thing, I think a lot of, the mainstream don't think that, all these events are, because not all the events that are held in our community are kid-friendly. But events like this, like even Puff Jam, as well, that Joanna Baker holds up in Northern Ontario, is also a family-friendly event. So that's terrific to be able to include, because patients do have kids. Like, we do have children, and I think if, it's easier if we can bring them along and educate them along the way, because that's the main thing that we want to make sure that our kids are educated. And for them to be able to see events like this, that, people aren't, it's normal. It's something that we do, and it's something that goes on in our lives, and that they can be part of that. That's great.
Well, and it's so different than taking them to an event where there may be alcohol involved.
Right, you don't have alcohol being served.
The vibe is so different. No, absolutely not.
Right, so there's no, yeah.
You're welcome to bring your own, but it's
right.
not something that we're going to be offering at the event.
There's no beer garden, people. There's no beer garden. Because I know that's another, kind of catalyst. They have Cannabis coming up here in Grand Forks in August. And last year, reports where it was more of a beer fest than it was a Cannabis, and it's a big rock festival. And it's got some big name, bands that are brought in, but it's more, alcohol-based than Canada-based, and they call it Cannafest. So that's, one thing you kind of wonder about some of these events.
Like an oxymoron, eh?
Well, exactly. Like even, these Lift events, or not Lift, what was it, Life Cannabis event in Toronto, where Tracy Curley had been on a show prior mentioning the fact that there was more liquor available and no place for the cannabis patient to even consume. They had to walk across the highway. So, you kind of have to wonder where the industry's heads are at when it comes to alcohol and cannabis, right?
Well, you can definitely see their priorities, right?
Absolutely. So this is also a John Cook Cup. Now, let's go back and explain how this kind of came about for Mom and with the Harvest Fest, how it was incorporated.
Well, maybe I'll just back up the conversation even a little bit further. Quite a bit further, actually, now that I'm thinking. We started, Mom was incorporated as a not-for-profit in 2013. In 2014, we held what we called our first hemp festival on a local property that was owned by a board. It actually belongs to an exhibition. The following year, we held our second one in 2015, and some of our listeners may recall who heard the story correctly, because there was some misreporting in the media about where the arrest happened, but Mark Emery was scheduled to be our MC for the second annual hemp festival. He had arrived in Halifax, made the 2-hour drive out to Lawrencetown in the Annapolis Valley, spent the night, twice had slipped by police to arrive at the exhibition grounds and then go on to a local restaurant where he was arrested crossing the street after he'd had his lunch. And that began his stint, if you will, of being drugged through the courts and then drug off to the States to do a jail term for having sold cannabis seeds to Americans.
Right.
Because of that, the location, the town that holds the location, or where the location is homed, became quite concerned. They didn't want to be known as the pot capital on the East Coast, yada, yada. Very small town, very strong religious influence, if you will. Held a series of meetings, and it became, the terms that they were presenting us, it became prohibitive to hold the event in that location. We had way too many concerns. So it took us a couple of years to find a location where we could start to gather again, and we ended up downsizing it hugely. In fact, our first Harvest Fest was more of a membership picnic, and a couple of the ones following that were more of a membership picnic. And we shifted locations a few times through the years, have had a couple of bands performing, a comedian or two. But 3 years ago, we decided it was time to make a major change with the shape of the event. We wanted to do something different. We wanted to jazz things up, make it more attractive for people who weren't members to come. So we started with the addition of the John Cook Memorial Cup, and started increasing and adding bands to the event and able to attract more vendors to the event. Now I'll backtrack to the cup. But that bit of history is important with the evolution of the event. John was Mom's first vice chair. He was also the sole director of the first Cannabis Buyers Club of Canada outlet in Halifax, which would have been affiliated directly with Ted Smith at the time. The first club in Nova Scotia, the first place where anybody could buy medical cannabis from someone by going through a membership process. Sadly, John's health started to deteriorate 5 years ago, and 4 years ago he succumbed to a massive heart attack. So when we started to talk about reshaping the event, started to talk about adding a cup to it to help build interest to the event, and the concept of a cup was something we had been floating around loosely for quite a while. When we decided that we were going to go for it 3 years ago, the big question is what to call it. And Chris Backer quite quickly, aptly coined the phrase, the John Cook MUM, M-U-M-M, Oriole Cup. And it just resonated with everybody. We absolutely loved the idea. John's widow, Krista, loved the idea. And in fact, she has been with us now the last 2 years to help in the presentation of the cups and all of the awards, and has become a part of the event, and it's just absolutely wonderful. We all feel John's sense around us as we're doing that, especially with her presence, and it's a wonderful reminder of who John was, what he did in this province, and how he helped so many patients unconditionally, time and time again.
It's a real celebration of his life every year at Harvest Fest, and it's really evolved over the last few years, like from the samples going from just being flower to now. How many categories do you have?
Well, we have this year concentrates are new for us, as is hybrid in the flower category. The first year we just did flower and edible. Last year we split the flower into indica and sativa and edible. And this year we have the 5 categories. And I think that's probably where we'll stay at for next year as well, as we try to continue to build and grow our number of entries.
Do you feel that
it's been wonderful. We've had entries from BC, we've had entries from Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia. So not bad being here on the East Coast to have people from 5 provinces entering.
No, it's absolutely fabulous. Do you think that this new legislation is going to affect how you guys do things next year, or do you think it will have any bearing?
Well, it's certainly going to be interesting how it pans out. I can't see where it's basically a patient-led festival, although don't get me wrong, certainly you don't have to prove that you're a patient at a gate. Everybody's welcome, whether they consume cannabis for medical reasons or for social purposes, or if they just support the cause and want to come out and have a good time.
That's awesome, too.
Yeah.
Well, because we always figure that recreational medical, really, like medical, whether you're using it doesn't matter. Like, everybody's medicinal, really, whether they realize it or not.
Well, I guess that would be the one argument. Do you have to recognize its medical value for it to be medicinal? Not whether or not it's medicinal, right?
Well, exactly, because
it has so many benefits for so many things that it can't help but benefit whoever's consuming it.
Right, absolutely. And I think that's another, argument that we all have because of the fact that they're doctors. But that's, another show altogether about the doctor gateway. So, along with, we'll maybe get into the second half of the show. So, like I said, you mentioned all your sponsors and stuff. So you've got a good turnout. Ticket sales are. What does it cost for somebody to come out and enjoy this?
Well, it's only $40 for the weekend, and that includes your rough camping and admission.
That's really reasonable. Like, for people that are on disability, they can actually do that. Like $40 to get in the door. Now, you also have sent out your packages, or the judging packages already. They're already out and been judged, and you're starting to take the results back in already?
Well, I'm pretty sure I have the majority of the results back in, and that's one of the jobs I need to do before I head to the Fest site tomorrow, is determine the winners. And last year, I should tell you, it was absolutely so close that I had to recalculate a couple of the entries, what their scores were, because it was a difference of like 0.02.
Wow. And how many?
In the judge's choice, because I didn't mention when we were talking about the cup is one of the awards that we do is the judge's choice. So whichever entrant scores the most points has their name placed on a plaque on a large trophy that gets circulated from one local sponsor to another here in Nova Scotia, and they also get an award and prizes that they can have to show off as well.
Oh, that's good. That's awesome. So you have how many strains in the entry for flower? Do you know, like off the top of your head, do you know?
There were 15 in total.
Wow, that's great.
We had a dozen edible entries, and we had 5 concentrate entries this year.
Oh, that's terrific. And it just keeps getting better and better every year for you with the sponsors and the cups growing. And I think we'll see that over the next few years too, as these cups and events kind of get tweaked down to their perfection. You know what I mean? Like after, the first year, it's kind of wobbly, or you expect it to be, but after so many years, you finally get it down to a fine art. But you have a fine group of volunteers that help you too out there, don't you?
Well, we do have a good key core group of volunteers, and certainly kudos go out to Chris Backer for leading the charge on the ground crew and making sure that things are as meticulous as they absolutely can be for a field, right? But he's done an amazing job of tirelessly going time and again to work on the grounds, and we'd be absolutely lost without him. I jokingly said to him a couple of days ago, it should be much easier next year, right, Chris, because we've got all this land cleared. And he's going, well, what if we have enough people come this year to fill the space that we have this year, and we're going to want to make it bigger again.
So you found it out a little bit this year, didn't you? Made the event area bigger?
Well, the event area is a bit bigger. We've shifted the whole grounds around. Last year's stage is becoming a demo tent because last year's stage was a built structure. This year we're renting a proper stage, if you will, from a local company, and that's actually being delivered to the grounds today, and Chris and the crew are up there starting to build it. So it's just, all kinds of pieces coming together in this last week. It's been wonderful.
Right. All right, we're going to take a quick break here, and we'll come back and talk to Debbie a little more about Harvest Cup, and we get into some other things about what's going on in the world these days with cannabis. I'd like to thank my sponsors, who are 12 High Chicks Magazine, the THC Girls out of Toronto Edibles, MUM, the Maritime United for Medical Marijuana, Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partner Society, United Cannabis Coalition, the Haley Rose Foundation, and our song is going to be a new Toby Keith song called Wacky Tobacco. We'll be right back.
Hi, it's Deb from BMA Hydroponics. Whatever you are growing, from vegetables to medicinal cannabis, we have everything you need to succeed. From seed to harvest to processing and extracting, we carry all the brand name products that will help you produce, process, and consume high-quality medicine. Our knowledgeable staff of qualified growers have decades of experience with home production, and all possess either MMAR injunction status or an ACMPR registration certificate. We offer the largest variety of products available anywhere, and if you don't see what you're looking for, just let us know and we'll find it for you. Visit our store at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville, Ontario, or visit our website at bmahydroponics.com. We can be reached at 613-967-9888, Monday to Saturday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/BMAHydro and drop us a line at BMA. Our motto is your success is our success.
So what are you doing? Nothing. Why not? I'm trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website. Sounds like a cool website. Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it. You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Down the hall, shows up on time. She like balls to the wall. She went out to lunch with her high school friends. About 3 hours later, she come rolling back in. Well, the boss man really jumped her. Sonny wasn't joking. Everybody in the office knew one that had been smoking that old wacky tobacco. When you feel it creeping up on you, that old wacky tobacco, kick back and let it do what it do. Now you can two-toke her, you can one-hit him, puff it in a pipe and you can twist it in a stem. You can bake it in some brownies, smoke it through a bone, roll up a great big fat one like old Cheech and Chong. Burn it through a hole in a can of Budweiser. If you can't take the heat, son, vaporizer that old wacky tobacco. When you feel it creeping up on you, that old wacky tobacco. Kick back and let it do what it do. Now do what you do. Mexican and Jamaican with those buds of blue, Humboldt County and hydroponic too. Okeechobee purple from down in the south, and that old stuff your uncle smokes will give you cotton mouth. Homegrown is healthy, synthetic can kill you. My all-time favorite, red-haired Sansamilia, that old wacky tobacco. Feel it creeping up on you, that old wacky tobacco. Kick back and let it do what it do. I'll let it do what it do. Yeah, it do.
right. And that's a shout out to my friend Bill Kilborn out there in Tabor, Alberta, that's been listening to me. Apparently, you're my one listener today. That was Toby Keith, and we're back with Debbie Stultz-Giffin.
Amber McIntyre is listening too. Hi, Amber.
Oh, hi, Amber. Actually, I'd like to give a shout out to a couple of I know people that are listening, like Mary Williams. She diligently listens. I'd like to thank her for always listening. My friend Mindy Belinda, she always listens too. And my friend Susan Cunningham in Cranbrook, she listens too. So thanks to all of you 5 that are out there.
Yay, we're up to 5 or 6, right?
We can always hope, right? And also, again, tell my sponsors that do, help me out with, putting their names to a show that hopefully somebody's listening to. Anyways, we've been talking about the Harvest Fest that's coming up this weekend with Debbie Stultz-Giffin, and how hard and, not hard, but how long it takes and what a, huge undertaking these events are, and big respect to everybody that's been involved, because I know there's been a few others like Tabitha and Cindy and April and Chris and a bunch of other unnamables out there that diligently helped Debbie in the background too. And big thanks to you. Unfortunately, the plane fare out there is a little, and my broom's broken, so I won't be able to get out there, but Ross and Debbie Middleton will be out from the Canadian Therapeutic, and I think Al, my producer, will be out there this weekend too. So they're going to be coming live to you from 420 Radio from Harvest Fest. So that's terrific to know that I will be able to be kind of part of it, but not really there. So that's good.
Well, that's wonderful. I'm delighted to hear that Al's coming along too, and yeah, Ross and Debbie are going to be there. In fact, they're going to be leading one of our demonstrations on propagation and genetics. It's happening Saturday afternoon in the demo tent, and Ross is going to be having a presentation from the stage, because in between bands and periodically when the DJ's playing on Friday and Saturday, we'll have various speakers plugged into the stage for 5 or 10 minutes to either talk about who they are or what they do or what they know about cannabis in the industry.
Ross and Debbie own a hydroponic store in Belleville, and they're very knowledgeable when it comes to growing. I guess Al's not going to be there. He'll be there with everybody online. So, technically like me, he will be there, but not really. But Deb and Ross are very knowledgeable. Like I said, they've had a hydroponic store for many years. They're my Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis partners. They're part of my board of directors, or our board of directors.
Yes,
it's not mine.
That's the hat that Ross will be wearing when he takes to the stage, is the Canadian Therapeutic hat, to speak about your organization and what it does, and to talk about the National Task Force and those sorts of things.
Yeah, the National Task Force is something that we all undertook during the time of the ACMPR being rebuilt back into the court case was being fought, and they were told they had a certain amount of time to, revamp the MMAR, and we put a proposal together. There's non-for-profit groups. There was the Haley Rose Foundation, MOM, Canadian Therapeutic, MCPCA was also involved. So we kind of all gathered together and came up with this proposal that Ross binded, and it was sent into Health Canada. And, we worked pretty hard on that, all of us, for many months. But it was something that we actually got.
Certainly quite an undertaking.
We got into them, and that's, I think, one thing that we're pretty proud of. Even though there was no big announcement or any, we were happy that we could get that into them. So to them, thank you very much to Ross and Debbie for all their hard, diligent work that they do every day with the Hydro Store and signing patients, because that's something else. And here's another thing that, I'm reading on Facebook, and I hate to bring this up because, I was being called a scammer, okay? Like, the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners, we have a clinic that we work through with a consulting company that allows patients that can't get their family doctors to sign their paperwork. Unfortunately, there is a fee involved. Now, let's make it clear. Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners is not making any money off of this. And I'm hearing that other people that are out there that are being called scammers and because of these clinics. Be clear. With Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis, you can grow your own. We're not pushing you towards a licensed producer. We are not hooked up with a licensed producer. We do not advocate for any licensed producer. If you want to, for you. And unfortunately, we have no choice but to have that fee. It's not our choice. But I don't want to, like, I arguments on people's Facebook pages where we're being called scammers and pieces of shit. And that's offensive to me because it cost me a lot of money to get my first MMAR. I mean, and you as well, you were a Section 56. How much court cost and, crap did you have to go through to get it? I phoned Health Canada this morning because my first ACMPR paperwork went back to them February the 23rd of this year. It got sent back because we had missed a spot on the production license. Now, I phoned them this morning to see where my licensing application or authorization or whatever the hell they want to call it these days, and they've got it. It's being processed, and it probably will be a few more weeks before you're going to get it. And she goes, and I'm really sorry, but the volume is really high. And I said, yeah, the same stuff that we went through, the first 2 years that, I got this. And 10 weeks was usually the maximum, but I know Al just got his. It was 22 weeks that he waited for his. I heard from another patient, it was 6 months before she got hers. So in the interim, I started this back last year when I was fighting with my doctor to even get her to bother to sign it. And that took me 7 months. Finally getting the paperwork signed, sending it off. So February. So 5 months later, we're still sitting here without, and I'm just, flabbergasted again. And what does it take? I seen a news conference the other day, press conference, or what was that? What do they call those things, Debbie? It was Loretta Clark. They were at the on Parliament Hill doing a press conference about the wait time. Yeah. And that was something else too. Like, how many more times do patients have to do this? We were there doing that how many years ago?
2011, wasn't it? It was, because it was the 10th year anniversary of the shop, of the medical program. Sorry. Mm-hmm. I just all of a sudden drew a blank.
That's okay. We both go through that. But that's what I mean. Like, in the fact of the matter, like, in reality, how many more years now with the new legislation coming in, but it really, like, higher than average volumes. Like, were you guys not expecting that? But let's go back to when they cut that program back, because what was it? When they first took our grow licenses away and they brought in the MMPR, they basically shut down that medical marijuana programming, and all they were doing was licensed production licensing. So they took that department and shrunk it down to how many people. Now, I have to wonder if they've added any more employees to that department to actually help with this volume. Like, I don't know what the solution is, but the lamination machine's been broken for how many years?
Yeah, more than I can count. But I understood that a couple of months ago they were hiring more people, and it sounded as if at least a part of what some of those people would be doing would be processing patient applications. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I understand that oftentimes if it's more than 5 grams, they're calling the doctor to verify that it's the doctor who's actually signed the application.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
They did tell me that everything was in order and it was in process. That's what she did tell me. Because when you phone them, it was fairly quick. I was quite surprised because I've heard some people that have been online waiting for hours to get through, right? And it was fairly quick, and she took all my information, punched it into a computer, told me she'd be right back, and then came back with, yes, it's been received, and yes, it's in process, and everything's in order now because there was a mistake made prior. But I said to her, I made this mistake once when I had my MMAR, and all they did was call me, and it was still here within the 10 weeks. I said, what's if your volume's so high? She goes, I can't answer that question. I'd have to talk to somebody else about that. I said, don't bother. I'm not going to talk to a supervisor about why it takes them so long to get that's kind of pointless. But just still, the whole process, it's just unbelievable. And yeah, my doctor's been on holiday, so I hope that hasn't been the holdup, because we're over 5 grams, both of us. So we need it. Like with it, making candy for myself, I need to have more than 5 grams a day.
Well, there are so many patients that are in the same boat as you.
Yeah, and that's the whole 4 plant count thing with the legislation too. Like, just seems ridiculous. But I know we've had this conversation on many shows about, the legislation and how it affects. But like I said, I was talking to Marcel too at a previous show where, Nova Scotia's got the highest number of patients per capita. And Nova Scotia, I think people don't really realize what really goes on because, like I said, the bubble in Vancouver, bubble in Toronto, everybody's doing their own thing across the country. But Nova Scotia really has a lot going on out there. They've got how many dispensaries now across the province?
I have totally lost track of how many. There are that many. From I remember when I came out to the Mum Cup the end of February, there were at least 22, and I've heard of many more since then that have popped up here and there. This last week, it's been almost on a daily basis. It's just like, whoa. And actually, Mum have started a dispensary certification program where we've developed a basic set of standards, which, like our Harvest Fest, we expect to build and grow on so that before long, patients will be able to go online, see the results of that the dispensaries have submitted for their certification so that they'll have an understanding of what to expect when they go through the doors to register with a dispensary. And certainly we're just looking at registering those dispensaries that are 100% medical. Nova Scotia actually has a couple of dispensaries that have popped up. Some have faced the long arm of the law so far, and some haven't, but certainly that serve the 19-plus market by and large, and just not exclusive to patients.
Right. And I think that's more and more.
Yeah, so with the Smith decision to stand behind, we feel fully, and all of the other court decisions and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and the list goes on, we feel fully confident standing behind medical dispensaries, supporting them, lobbying the government for their existence, and working with them hand in hand to help move things forward for them.
Well, they really are indispensable. I think that's something that, over the years we've really seen them come a long ways. Because, there's always going to be that one shop that doesn't, take ID and, the one bad apple, right? Because that's the way it goes. And I think that, a lot of the standards, because I know there's some of these dispensaries in BC too, they follow the same certain standards. You have to have medical authorization. They will then refer you to a doctor, even out here like a homeopath. They take that and that signature from that doctor and give you their dispensary cards. And I think that's great as long as they're keeping, to standard. They really are necessary because, like I said to the lady on the phone, I said, I'm not able to get from a licensed producer. This holdup is really holding us up. We're having to purchase from a dispensary. And I told her that because I told her there's no other option for us other than the street. So, and that's, something I think that Health Canada should really be hearing too, is that the dispensaries are indispensable and they really do help thousands of patients or, a day more than that. Look at the lineups that they were having when the new Cannabis Culture opened in Toronto, around the block lineups. It was just crazy. And
there has been a dispensary in Nova Scotia that experienced lineups around the corner as well. Absolutely. There is such a huge need for them. And interestingly enough, even now in Nova Scotia, we have a couple of delivery services up and on the go.
That's good, too, because there's lots of patients that can't even get out. I think that's my biggest argument that I made here, too, is, it's great that we have 2 dispensaries in Kimberley, but that does not make it accessible to patients that are in scooters and wheelchairs and homebound that can't get out there, and why there should be more access. But like I said, I think over the next, year, maybe we'll see a little more. But then again, you see, Project Clodia is still filtering into Toronto, and the CanMed clinics that were busted all across the province, or all across the country last week. And I have to wonder why they're targeting certain ones and letting other ones run. And you see the ones that are shutting down because of the fear that they might have to be under. There's just any realm to it. You know what I mean? There's no It's not across board. It's just random this one, random that one. Like, I don't understand their whole logic in picking that apart to the point. Either shut them all or let them all run. Like, I just don't understand how they're randomly picking and choosing which ones to take down and not.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have? There's not been much haven't heard any raids. Was the Canada Clinic raided in Nova Scotia when the rest of them were done last week too?
I haven't heard of any raids in Nova Scotia at all, but certainly social media is quick to report any kind of police action around a dispensary or near a dispensary, and I've been quite busy with Harvest Fest, but I certainly haven't seen anything, and I know we would have heard. We're usually amongst the first to hear if a raid's gone down in the province, because we're often the ones that get involved in issuing press releases and putting out the cry for patients and supporters to turn up at court.
Right. And have you noticed that the court support has gone down, as far as charges in Nova Scotia in the last little bit? Like, I don't seem to be hearing as many people being charged for possession. Like, out here, we, read the RCMP report, and there's always at least one marijuana seizure over the, 2-week period. But, you have the court support that the Maritimers Treat on marijuana do, and I haven't noticed too much action on that. Is that a good sign?
Well, I'm just trying to think of, I don't think there's anything specific apart from charges against Chris Enns and pharmacists for the 3 raids that happened on the pharmacists. The last one of those would have been a couple of years ago,
right?
And Chris has moved things through the courts to the point that basically this will be heard in the Supreme Court of Nova Scotia.
Right. Pushed it all the way through
by judge and jury, with 3-week trials slated for 2018, and Kirk Tousaw will be here arguing in his defense. So it's certainly going to be an interesting case for the advancement of dispensaries, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really good that they're actually going to take that forward. I mean, it's unfortunate that we have...
Hugely, and I just want to throw in one more point about court support before I forget, or before we veer off in another direction like we often do. Chris Backer noted that twice when he was in court supporting a patient and they were both cases where a number of patients were able to attend to sort of send that message to the judge that, hey, we're here, we're watching, we're interested. The judges noticed the presence of supporters in the courtroom, noticed that when the defendant leaves the courtroom, that a number of people get up and leave with them. And that it's been noted in a positive way, that the judge is noticing the support of people. And in fact, I was actually in a courtroom once. It was for James McDonald in appeal court, and the judge representing the three judges that were on the bench that day actually apologized to supporters that they were unable to proceed for whatever reason. Supporters that might have driven away to be there, that things weren't able to proceed that day. So certainly, anybody listening from anywhere in Canada, if you know of anyone who's facing charges because of their medical cannabis requirements, or it's a club that's been providing medication to patients, it's hugely important that you show that support and you get there, and yes, you will make a difference by being there.
Absolutely. And a shout out to James McDonald, because he listens every once in a while too, and he was run, pretty much run through the mill on that whole deal there for him, and I think he's still fighting and battling away there. So it's unfortunate that so many people that are sick have to deal in the court system, period, like that anybody should have to even be seen in a courtroom. And, a few of us have been there. So it's not something that we're immune from, like just because we have papers. In fact, I think it was not too long ago I was reading somewhere that Kelly Cush was traveling across the country and was pulled over and was charged with possession of her medicine with an MMAR because the police, again, are uneducated. And, you hear these stories over and over and over. And I mean, we've had a program since 2001. Why is not the law enforcement taking why is there no education for them? They know we're here. They know we have a program. They know there's cards. They know what the paperwork looks like, or most of them, or you'd think there's some of them at least. You'd think that would be just kind of like a prerequisite for the RCMP. Okay, this is what it looks like, a whole section in their book. It's been, 17, 18 years now, 16 years. Like, when are they going to get it right? I just have to shake my head.
Well, Health Canada developed the program, and it was basically created to be an island. They didn't bother to inform any of the other federal departments as to what was going on or how they could respond to the program from their department's perspective. And as a result, patients are still paying the price in spite of the change of the face of the politicians that we see on CPAC. The bureaucrats are still the same behind the scenes, so it's just the same crap a different day, right?
Absolutely.
Sadly. But for a side note, John Burfello was arrested in the Winnipeg airport flying home from an event there because the claim was he didn't have any current paperwork, but he was... Oh,
that was Edmonton. Yeah, that was the Edmonton
Sorry,
company.
yes,
Yeah.
Rose City. He was covered by the MMAR because of the Allard injunction, and he found out when he called Health Canada to quiz them further about this, that if you send in a photocopy of your license, driver's license, I believe, which would then have your picture on it and relevant information about you and kind of be proof that you are who you say you are. The number off of your last most current pink slip, like the authorization number, your name, your address, I believe your date of birth, send it off to Health Canada, and they will send you a photocopy of your last pink slip with a letter attached that should then explain to the RCMP that, hey, yes, the date may show as being expired, but this person is in fact covered by the Allard decision, which should help make life a little bit easier for patients covered under the Allard decision when encountering law enforcement.
Yeah, I've been fortunate that when they've come here, it's like they've already done their research or something. They already knew that I already had paperwork, and I didn't have to show them anything, thankfully. And I've, haven't had any dealings with them in the last few weeks, so yay! Something I don't look forward to is, having any dealings with the RCMP at all. Like, no thanks. So let's get back to, a little bit more about, where we're going with the court. So the court support out there has not been too, busy. So again, that kind of means that maybe the number of patients are not being arrested. They are being a little more educated when it comes down to that. But in, hindsight, how many, again, the program's still not working. It's still unconstitutional. We have patients out there that still refuse to, bother even getting the ACMPR because of the fact that the lack of doctors signing. And like you said, doctors over 5 grams are being phoned and harassed, which doesn't make a doctor more eager to keep signing paperwork.
Well, no, it doesn't for the most part, and a number of doctors, it seems, are backing away. And my biggest fear is that with legalization looming, that a lot of doctors are just going to look at a patient and go, I'm not going through all that work of filling out paperwork for you, having Health Canada then call and bug me about you, and doing it year after year after year, when you can just go down the street to the local whatever shape the cannabis outlet takes, because that's going to be a provincial decision, of course. But you can just go there and get what you need. You don't need me. See ya. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
And there are a number of patients that are going to end up hugely under-medicated and still, I feel, discriminated against and chastised because of what their choices are.
Well, in hindsight, too.
And now, God forbid, they're doing it without the doctor's support, right?
Right. And that's the whole thing with the growing portion of it. Like when you get patients that are needing more, can't get access to a doctor, period, then they have to go down. Now the doctors are going to say, well, go to your local vendor and buy it. And then you're right back to the can't afford it. It's back down to the cost. It's back down to the affordability for a patient that can't afford their rent. Never mind going down to the local store, because who knows where those outlets are going to take us. Okay, on that note, we'll come back and talk about affordability and growing a little bit after we come back from the break. So our next song is going to be the Steve Miller Brand. I'm a joker, I'm a toker, and I'm a midnight smoker. Or no, I guess I got that all wrong too, but I'd like to thank my sponsors who are 12 High Chicks Magazine, Maritime Regenerative for Medical Marijuana, Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners, THC Girls, United Coalition, and Remos Nutrients. We'll be right back.
The most important meal of the day. What's the matter? There's no prize in here. What? Well, that's just lame. I hate that. I remember in the 70s, there was a prize in each and every cereal box.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
You know what? I've solved that problem.
How'd you do that?
With this. The Supercharged Kit, brand new from Remo Nutrients. Each and every Supercharged Kit contains 1 liter Grow, Blue, Micro, Velo Kelp, Magnifical, Astro Flower, and Nature's Candy. You also get a shot glass, a syringe so you can accurately measure your nutrients, a sticker, a feed chart, and a prize in every box.
Oh, yeah!
What'd you get?
I got a Remo Nutrients lighter leash.
Sweet. Hey, Mikey, he likes it.
Hey, I got keys in my Supercharged Kit.
I think those are mine. The Supercharged Kit is available at your favorite hydroponic retailer. Get yours today.
This is a public service announcement from the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society. The Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society is a non-profit organization dedicated to ensuring improved access to therapeutic cannabis and cannabis byproducts in Canada. With a federal government that has committed to legalizing cannabis, we feel it is our duty to ensure that the medicinal use of cannabis doesn't get lost in the process and that there are clear distinctions made between the medicinal and recreational use of cannabis. It is our mission to ensure that government regulation doesn't get in the way of a sick, disabled, or terminally ill person's right to use or produce this amazing natural health product. If you would like to get involved, you can contact us on the internet www.canadiantherapeuticCannabisPartners.com, on Facebook, CTCP Society, or search Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners.
Hang up and try again.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Some people call me the space cowboy. Yeah. Some call me the gangster of love. Some people call me Maurice. 'Cause I speak of the pompatus of love. People talk about me, baby. Say I'm doing you wrong, doing you wrong. Well, don't you worry, baby, don't worry. 'Cause I'm right here, right here, right here, right here at home. 'Cause I'm a picker, I'm a grinner, I'm a lover, and I'm a sinner. I play my music in the sun. I'm a joker, I'm a smoker, I'm a midnight toker. I get my loving on the run. You're the cutest thing that I ever did see. I really love your beaches, want to shake your tree. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it all the time. Ooh, yeah, baby, I sure show you a good time. 'Cause I'm a picker, I'm a grinner, I'm a lover, and I'm a sinner. Play my music in the sun. I'm a joker, I'm a smoker, I'm a midnight toker. I sure don't want to hurt no one. People keep talking about me, baby. Say I'm doing you wrong. Well, don't worry, no, don't worry, mama. 'Cause I'm right here at home. You're the cutest thing I ever did see. I really love your peaches, wanna shake your tree.
All right, we're back with Debbie Stultz-Giffin. That was a Steve Miller Band, and one of my favorite old tunes. Al just kind of groans at me. God, really? But, you know, old classic rocker here. So back to, you know, the gateway theory. Like I said, the patients and stuff that, you know, such that have to go through the wait and, you know, like I said, the long wait. And then again, you're back to, you know, 6 months of holding a license. Now that's not really, you know, going to cut it when it comes to growing your garden, especially if you're going from seed. Like, I know that you have a designated grower, Deb. So he's pretty diligent and very, very kind with you guys. And he gives, you know, he's always on time. You don't have to worry about it. But how many patients out there that don't have, you know, that diligent designated grower, or like ourselves, like, you know, we're still sitting in limbo. We don't have, you know, anyone anywhere. We have a production site, but in hindsight, we can't do anything until the papers are on that wall, you know, like just sitting here.
Well, absolutely. And then there's good growers who know what they're doing and can provide wonderful medicine. And then there are growers who don't know what end is up, but think they grow the absolute best medicine, and they're God's great green gift to the world.
Yeah.
And that's problematic. They produce medicine. They might be kind of timely, maybe not necessarily always, but the grow room's a disaster. There's bugs. I mean, this is my second DG. I absolutely love him to bits. He produces amazing medicine. I always get it in a timely fashion, and been more than helpful. But I certainly had a previous grower, and things, let's just say, almost on the other end of the spectrum as far as the quality of medicine and the attitude about being able to provide what was needed.
Or you get the ones out there that take your licensing and then just don't produce anything at all. And that's, you know, was problematic, I think, with the old program, is why things kind of went the south way that they did, is because so many patients were getting ripped off, that people were either not producing quality medicine for them, or they were diverting all their medicine from them and they weren't getting anything. I don't know how many times I heard that from patients that they were lost out on thousands of dollars and had to produce, buy their own medicine because their designated grower was not producing for them. Or, it's just like I said, the one bad apple though. But when it kind of rolls up and you keep hearing the same story, and those people do go to Health Canada. I don't know what person would think that Health Canada is not going to get a phone call from a patient that's not receiving their medicine and say, like, this person has my license. This person isn't producing my medicine for me or giving it to me. Pull that license. And I think that was one gap that they left within the MMAR, is that once that designated grower had your licensing, you were screwed. You couldn't take that licensing away until you got the following, like you renewed the next year, and try to find another designated grower. Going through the whole rigmarole of police check and police report, and that costs money, and it's not easy to get that authorization to begin with. And then you got these people out there that, will take your authorization and then just end up screwing you right over for it. And I think that's the biggest disheartening, and they're still out there. Trust me, there are ripoffs everywhere in this community. They hide behind clinics, they hide behind designated growing, they hide behind the industry. And that's the sad part about it, that you just don't know, who they are until you get bad product or you get screwed over.
Well, exactly. And it's sad that there has to be that kind of a learning curve for people who use cannabis as medicine.
Well, when you have, like, the police chief, that Paulson there, that comes out as his retirement speech and saying, the only thing you have to worry about in Canada isn't terrorism, it's organized crime. And then, pointing at the marijuana industry with it. I think that's the most disheartening thing you can actually hear, is the fact that they believe that cannabis is the main feed for organized crime, when that's not the case at all. 90% or 90, I would say 98% of the people that grow cannabis for themselves don't know anybody involved in organized crime. Nor do they want to have anything to do with organized crime. They've got children, they're sick, they don't have time for any of that crap. But the whole onus that leads to the criminality of cannabis, which is never going anywhere. Well, it was supposed to be going, but they're still not taking the crime out of it, even with this new legislation.
Well, exactly. It's ridiculous. And it's been shown that the majority of charges are the ones coming up against the mom and pop growers. It's not, like you say, it's not organized crime, and it's interesting how law enforcement and government officials, particularly from 2000 roughly to 2010, and around that decade, started leading the conversation and making random unfounded comments that the media would then lap up like a cat with its head in a bowl of cream. And then all of this propaganda gets spread, and it becomes a part of the belief system of prohibitionists. And then you have to fight that level of propaganda as well, too. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't think the media has become any more pot-friendly in the last 10 years either. Like, you hear them on one note going, yeah, it's going to be, and then you got that underlying stigmatization that still goes along with any reporter that you ever talk to. There's always that one little twist. There's always that one little jab. And it's like, we're no different than you. We choose to use a more natural form of medicine. That's it. Like, you're, strung out on Percocet, sitting in your chair, typing away, and I'm over here, like, at least coherent. I don't know. Like I said, it's non-comparable. I've said that for many years, that you can't compare cannabis to any narcotic, period. Narcotic, alcohol, it's just not the same at all.
No.
Non-comparable. And that's the thing, too, with the provinces, I don't know, what's Nova Scotia looking at as far as distribution? Are they looking at the liquor store model, or what's do you have any inclination as what the Nova Scotia province is going to do with legalization?
No, not completely. I've heard that there's been committees struck. I've been lobbying with the Premier for a spot on the committees. But we heard from John Percy yesterday, because he's been involved in a series of meetings and events, if you will, that weren't entirely planned, just a matter of being in the right place at the right time to initiate the right conversations. John and I are meeting with the Deputy Minister of Health and a couple of other officials, if you will, from the province late in August to talk about the plight of patients and looming legalization and what it might mean for Nova Scotia, in hopes that we might be able to help to shape those conversations and contribute to them.
And also,
thought I was going to be able to take the month of August off, but
yeah, exactly right. And that's the worst part about it, is it's never ending.
Well, it isn't, and I'm not. That wasn't a complaint. It was more of a half-hearted joke than anything, because things don't stop. Even while the MPs, MLAs are out doing their barbecue circuit or what have you in the summertime, there are businesses still functioning somewhat behind the scenes, and whenever we have an opportunity to speak with someone that might make a difference somewhere along the line, we certainly seize it and run with it. Wouldn't matter if it was Christmas Day or Easter, I don't think.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, it's until we get some form of, like I said, even with this new legislation, there's not going to be 100% happy people out there. There's still going to be tweaking and people lobbying to do different things with it. And the whole thing, with different provinces. And that's the thing. Once that goes through July 2018, then the provinces and the municipalities have to get at it. Like, we might not be looking at it legal in per se at every, point in Canada for sales and everything else for another couple years. And that's disheartening too. I know that the one dispensary owner in Kimberley said to me, she says, well, how do you feel, what this is going to do? And do you think my business is going to be able to withstand it? And I said, I sure hope so. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what else to say. As long as there's no complaints and stuff going on, I don't think that they're going to have too much to worry about. But then again, I'm not making the laws, and I'm not sitting in a position where I even know what the hell's going on. But they're scared. I know they are. I wouldn't say scared. They're apprehensive to, be moving forward when they don't know what the whole, regime is going to look like.
Well, it certainly seems like a muddled up mess at the moment, and you have to wonder, even though I see the government was denying that there's an existing gap in patient services as far as the continuity of supply from licensed producers, but you have to wonder if they can't meet the needs of the patients that exist now and are enrolled in the program, knowing the high number of people alone who profess to use cannabis medically, compound that with the recreational market imploding in. They're not geared to handle that by a long shot yet, even if they authorized a whole bunch of licensed producers tomorrow. By the time facilities were set up, people hired things up and running. I mean, it's, pardon the pun, but isn't it a bit of a pipe dream?
Yeah. Like I said to the lady at Health Canada this morning, like, you got a high number of volume that you can't get through, to even get the applications through. You can't even get to a licensed producer, because a lot of them aren't taking new registration. There's more and more of them popping up, sure, but they're still just in production. Like, nothing's produced, nothing's for sale. Like I said, I haven't really checked. Broken Coast, I think, was the one that we were looking at. And then I called them, and I would have had to go back to my doctor and have them fax the original copy with the back from, like, there's a second piece, for most patients, for people they don't know, like, when you get your doctor's signature, it's a 2-page, but on the back page it's just a authorization with the doctor's initials on it. That's what has to be faxed from their office to a licensed producer for you to actually then get to the licensed producer. If you don't do that, you just take your original copy and you send that all off to Health Canada, you don't, unless you do that step. So I would have had to go back, have my doctor sign that piece of paper, fax it off, and then they weren't taking it into registration anyway. So I could have went through the rigmarole of trying some other one or 10 other ones or however many. There's 44, I think, running right now in the country, and still not get quality meds. I see a lot of complaining, and I think that's what's disheartening. Even the people that are using licensed producers, I'm not hearing too much good. I see some good product. I hear a few, raving reviews about, some of the Broken Coast stuff. The Peace Naturals have great, some good product, but on overall, I'm not hearing great stuff. What about you, Debbie?
I'm not either. Hearing too many rave reviews about products from licensed producers yet.
No.
But I don't. Where I have a designated grower, I don't have a whole lot of contact with that end of things other than through word of mouth.
I don't think I've ever. Well, I can't say that. When we were in Vancouver, I think we both tried some licensed producer cannabis, didn't we? Didn't Kim have a little bit with her? I can't remember exactly because there was so much cannabis out in Vancouver when we were out in Vancouver because there was no lack of cannabis at the Mum Cup by any stretch. But
you know what? The only unique cannabis that stands out to me, and I don't even think I was involved with sampling it, was you and the sample you found out under the bush in the yard.
That was epic, right? I don't think I've ever told anybody else that story. We get to the Airbnb in Vancouver, and I didn't bring any cannabis with me, so I was waiting for May to, bring me over a care package and stuff. And I walked outside to have a cigarette, and I looked down, and there was a little PVC pipe kind of parcel, and I looked down, and then there's a bag with cannabis in it, with papers and everything. And there was like a couple grams of it. I can't even remember, was it White Widow or something? So I come walking back into the Airbnb and look at Kim and Debbie and go, look what I found. It's a gift from the Ganja Gods. But yeah, it was, and before we left, I put the bag back and I put a couple buds in it and put it right back to where it was. So it was like whoever left it will have, or the next person that comes will have a gift from the Ganja Gods. But that was funny. Only in Vancouver, right?
Well, and putting those energies out to the universe, and there you go.
Well, that was
I now have a list of event sponsors for Harvest Fest in my hand.
Excellent.
I know our time's running short, but I'm just going to take a couple of minutes or a minute and run through it here.
You go right ahead. Run through all those sponsors.
I'd like to give a shout-out to the following businesses and organizations for offering sponsorship to the 10th Annual Harvest Fest and the 3rd Annual John Cook Memorial Cup. The Higher Living Wellness Center Incorporated, Cannabis Technology, Dieppe Hydroponics, East Coast Seeds, The High Road, Maritime Mash, Vancouver Seed Bank, Crop King Seeds, Intention Events, who are our sound people and DJ for the weekend, Smoker's Corner, beautiful smoke shop in downtown Truro, Truro Herbal Company, one of the licensed producers up and coming in Nova Scotia, Pharmacists, My Sugar Mamas, Travis Z. Baker Photography, who's going to be in-house on Saturday taking pictures and doing a video both of the event, Greenway Wellness Center, The Natural Remedy, 12 High Chicks, Sweet Leaf Smoke Shop RX, Mad Hippie Markings Company, Canamed, Cloud9 Distribution, CanBuds.com, Made with Love Unique Etched and Vinyl Glassware, who are doing our first place trophies for the cup, Hemp Heaven, Radical Concepts, Steve's Hydroponics Equipment, and Eller's House General Store.
Wow. That's a lineup.
And that's just a couple of the sponsors are involved with the Dab Bar as well, but the Dab Bar has its own complete, unique list of that's somewhere in the ballpark of 27, I believe. And certainly a shout-out of love, thanks, and appreciation to all these wonderful folks who've gone above and beyond the call to support this event, to allow us to make it happen with donating funds and items both that we can use as prizes and giveaways to make the event that much more fun and pleasurable for the attendees.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a great weekend. Yeah, sounds like it's going to be a really great weekend for everybody that's going to be attending out there. How's your weather looking for the weekend?
I haven't been brave enough to look today. or had time. I've seen hints of showers on Saturday, but certainly last year there was a rumor of showers on Saturday, and there was rain in some areas, but the sun shone on Harvest Fest all day long. At nighttime when we were sitting listening to the bands on the stage, there was an electrical show all around us, but not a drop of rain. It was fantastic.
Sounds fantastic. Well, let's hope that happens again this year, and you guys have a great turnout. And like I said, what a great lineup of sponsors, and it sounds like the Dab Bar is going to be fabulous. And, shout out to you and your whole team, Deb. You guys really pull this off and make it a fabulous event. 10 years in running, and that's, annually done out in Nova Scotia. So it can be done. Everybody out there, don't, let your dreams, if you ever dream of hosting yourself a camp out, week out. I know that Melissa Finley in the 710 Grey area are also having a similar event up in the Edmonton area coming up here in the next few weeks. So there's quite a few events across the country in the cannabis community that you can get to within your areas. And a few, hours drive. Really, it's summer. The roads are good. Be safe out there and enjoy that weekend, because I wish I could be out there, Deb. I hope everybody has a great time.
That's the big thing to festival goers is to travel safely, travel smart. Don't leave your Rizlas on the dash if you happen to get pulled over, to make the cops go, I wonder what's going on there.
And do, consume responsibly while you're at the event. Like I seen a posting from Chris Backer, like, if you eat a brownie and you're not feeling anything in a couple hours, then maybe eat a second one, but don't be pounding back the brownies. Because,
Well, for sure. Yes, it's all about being smart, being safe.
Exactly. So please consume responsibly out there and have a really great weekend. Well, I think we're going to wrap this all up today. We've had a great chat, Deb. It's always a pleasure to have you on. I enjoy talking to you immensely and hearing all the good work you guys are doing out in Nova Scotia. It's fabulous that, it's unfortunate in some aspects that we have to keep continuing on our protesting and lobbying. But in hindsight, it brings us all together, and these events do bring everybody together in a positive manner where everybody can go out and have fun and really enjoy the wealth that we do have within our community, which is, friendship and peace and consuming cannabis and, the plant that we all love so much.
Oh, for sure. And it's in many respects, for some of us, Harvest Fest is like a big family reunion, and Christmas rolled all into one, because, there's giveaways and freebies throughout the weekend as well, and the gathering together of friends and familiar faces, many of whom haven't seen each other since last year.
And people are traveling across the country. There are people coming from Vancouver.
Yeah, and that feeling's only going to keep building and growing, and hopefully next year we'll have more people coming from the West Coast, yourself included.
Oh, there's always hope, You never know. And so that's the thing, with Ross and Deb coming out from Ontario, and I know Siva's heading out that way, I think you mentioned. That's, huge to have people traveling. Amber and Mike will be out there from Toronto. So, just having the event that people do want to travel to and meet up with old friends. But again, that happens Hemp Fests and Lift Expos, and, even if they're not what they used to be, we still have these great events that are being held across the country all year round. So keep watching on Facebook and Twitter and all the social media out there, because most of them do pop up online, and there'll be events planned online, and you'll be able to find them in your own areas. Well,
definitely. And for anybody that's listening, that's close enough, that maybe don't have any plans this weekend, look us up under 10th Annual Harvest Fest on Facebook, and you'll find all the details there.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to again thank my sponsors and you for coming on. And you have a great Harvest Fest. I'll try catching up with you next week and see how things go.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, hon. Well, shout out to everybody that listened. I appreciate everybody that's listening this week. And next week we'll have another show, 9 a.m. from the Red Room. Y'all take care now. Bye.
Bye.
So what are you doing? Nothing? Why not? I'm trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website. Sounds like a cool website. Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it. You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
You've tried everything to manage your pain and symptoms. Harsh narcotics could be doing as much harm as good. Do you even know what's in them? What are you putting into your body? It's time for something different. It's time for Mary Jane's Alternative Medicines. A certified consultant is ready to speak to you today and help guide you to the best treatment that's right for you. They specialize in organic and natural vegan-rated cannabis-based products with no binders, fillers, or added chemicals. Mary Jane's Alternative Medicines ships orders nationwide to help people suffering from arthritis, Parkinson's, fibromyalgia, colitis, IBS, Crohn's, multiple sclerosis, or cancer. Don't suffer any longer than you have to. Call today, 250-246-1556